Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of from SWAT to becoming a state crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring, aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And while we'll have a presentation, and during that presentation, if you have any questions or anything and you're in chat, just throw them in there. I'll try to get to as many questions as I can, as always. And while you're interacting with the other members of our community, be mindful and be respectful of families, mods, and each other. Tonight, we're going to be discussing possible verdicts, and we may even be, as we go into this, I'll be asking, and we'll be doing kind of like a little poll through the discussion. And so as we look at, and I'd give you the options of what type of verdicts we may see at the end of this trial that is upcoming. Choose one of them and as few words as possible of why you believe that's the verdict that will come. Like I said, we have several options other than just acquittal and guilty. There's other options that can occur out there, and we'll be discussing those also as possibilities of what may happen in the this trial that is coming up in May, hopefully, or will it be continued? Who knows? I would bet on a continuance, but we'll see. But before we get too far into it, if you have any information regarding this case, make sure law enforcement has the information that the prosecutor, the defense, for the fact that while seeking justice for the homicides of Abby and Libby, we absolutely have to make sure that everything goes and that the court has all the information, prosecutors, law enforcement, defense has all the information to find that if Richard Allen is the one involved and responsible for these homicides, that his justice is, he's met with justice. And then, of course, like I said, if there's others involved, the law enforcement needs to have that information also. And if you have that piece of information, absolutely make sure it's available to law enforcement. And before we get too far into it here, let me get into chat and say hello to a few people here. There's Tyler, good to see you. There's Patty. This is someone's told Patty to give it a thumbs up, and this is fair enough. I always wait to see if I like the show first. Absolutely. And that's fair enough. And I appreciate you coming here and giving me a chance to give you my viewpoint, my perspective, and allow you to give your perspective. I look forward to hearing it. And if you do have a certain verdict or a finding that may come of the during this trial, of one of the ways that the court may find, is it going to be a mistrial, hung jury? Is there going to be dismissals? There's all different types of things that may or may not occur in this trial. And so if you do have something like that, just give a few words of which way you think it's going to go and why. And then we have Josh Posh that says $5. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Hello, Mr. Steve, fellow mods, and everyone. Can't make it tonight due to another event, but I look forward to I see that he meant replay. He put reply. Appreciate it, Josh. And it's through your help and everyone that watches this that our foundation, where we go out and work cold cases, we traveled 19,000 miles last year. We're going to be doing more than that this year. We've already traveled 6,300 working cold cases on these families. And it's through your support, your views, your thumbs up, likes, sharing that we're allowed to do this. And absolutely, I'm in awe of my community that allows us to go out there and do this. All right, let's see who else is in chat. This account will catch a replay. This account, that's a great name. Have a good time, everyone. Sensei, good to see you. SP74, you made a live. Good for you. All right. Oh, me. Thank you, SP74. It's very kind of you. Lori Lowe is here. Junior, he's from Kentucky. Jim's mom. Yes, good to see you. Truffles. Looks like Benji on Sensei. Absolutely. All right, Leanna or Leanne. Simon, good to see you. West Yorkshire. Interesting. Gail Hurd's here. Matt, good to see you. Don Spain. And Don, I know you went to Delphi, and did that have your visit to Delphi? Did that have any changing of your views of what possibly the verdict would be, or of who you think is responsible? There's Betty Mustang 65 here. Dandy Linus is here. Good to see. Elevate the process. Absolutely. Scott Daly. Scott Daly says, I have a good theory and motive. All right. Excellent. Before we go much further, let's go over and give people time that before I get into chat too far, but let's give the y'all options of what we're looking for tonight. Of course, Richard Allen is the one that's accused of this terrible crime of double homicide. And if you, like I said, we want justice, and there's only one way that can be is going through the court process. And these are the possible outcomes. Acquittal. Of course, we have a lot of people, and this is absolutely true. He is innocent until proven guilty, and so if he's acquitted of these crimes, then we have issues that there's others out there, and who are they? And although we've looked at it through the alternate suspect, that if anyone else was ever charged and he was proclaimed that he is not involved, that they will instantly bring him in as their defense attorneys would bring him in as an alternate suspect due to the state has prosecuted him to this extent. And so, but acquittal was one of them. So if you think that he is going to be acquitted, why do you think he's going to be acquitted in 5 or 10 words? Or as Mrs. Steve would tell me, why, and in 3 words or less. She puts me up to a high standard. And if you think there's going to be a mistrial, a procedural mistrial, something that happens by some of the attorneys that would cause a mistrial and the judge would have to declare a mistrial, if you think that's going to be it, what misstep do you think would occur, and who would it be on? Is it going to be the defense? Is it going to be the prosecution? Or is it going to be something? Is it going to be something that the judge does? It'd be interesting. And then we have a mistrial through a hung jury. That do you think that there will be some expert that comes into the picture and makes some type of statement, or an officer or a witness? And if that's the case, that you think there's going to be a hung jury, what piece of evidence do you think that will be presented that will give the jury cause, or one person on the jury cause to reflect and say, hey, they've got the wrong guy, or because, or you could have it so there's 11 innocent and 1 guilty. And so you've got both ways here, or you could have 11 guilty and 1 innocent. And so, but what piece of evidence do you think, and which way do you think that would go? And then a case dismissed. And looking at, not saying that the judge is going to dismiss this case for lack of evidence or otherwise, but there's always possibilities of that cases can be dismissed, and with prejudice or without prejudice. If with prejudice, it would mean that if the judge dismissed it with prejudice, Richard Allen would not be tried again. Without prejudice, the prosecutor could come in and possibly re-indict and go again. And then the prosecutor, the state, do you think that there would be some type of new evidence that would come in that would say, we withdraw these charges or something. There's so many possibilities out there, and we've got people on opposite ends of the pole and across the spectrum of being confused and or just having an opinion of what's going on with the case and how daunting a task or how much evidence is out there saying that Richard Allen is responsible or other people are responsible. You know, and we've got a lot of people out there. You got the Kleins, you had Logan, you've got the Odinus, you've got all these other people out there. And then we have ultimately, and I put this in a specific order, guilty as the last, for the fact that the state has to prove and convince 12 people that Richard Allen is the one responsible for this. So anyway, like I said, throw it in there. If you put one of these, then but give us some basis, if you could, of why you think it would go one way or another, and we'll discuss it the best we can in this format that we have. And let me see here. Whoops. Let's see. Let me try to get this here computer working, this Google machine. All right. Acquittal. Okay. Oh, mate. You know the MO is guilty. Okay. I don't think that piece of evidence are getting there, but I appreciate your commitment. I appreciate your commitment. Y'all are absolutely. And then we have a Mustang 65, $5. Appreciate your support. And also, Corgi Mama donated to the foundation on our truecrimeweb.com to the foundation. And so here's for Corgi Mama. Thank you for that donation earlier today. Appreciate it. Hello, Copper Horse. Good to see you. And so SP 74 says, I just hope we get a verdict without shenanigans and clownery. I don't, if we go by the history of this case, we're going to have plenty of shenanigans and clownery. We've seen everything. I don't think they've had one court hearing that's went pretty smooth. I may be mistaken, but I know in the early days it kept everything that you can imagine it was that would pop up. It popped up, but so I think we're going to see quite a few shenanigans. Marine, good to see you. There's Roxy, good to see you. Betty, okay, so Betty says a big fat super duper guilty. Just wish we knew all their. I'm sure it's evidence, and you know, going through the probable cause, looking at the timeline, I tend to side with Betty here. That with what we know, if the probable cause, but it takes far more than just probable cause. That when the jury is charged, the judge presents what charges and what evidence would be allowed in this. That's going to be a totally new ball game than just what the probable cause affidavits are, because the bar is set so low, and it really is. It's a low bar to get someone arrested. It's a low bar of just probably of getting a judge to sign off and going in to get a search warrant. But as we've seen in this case, they've thrown a lot into those probable cause affidavits, and for the fact that that is going to be a lot of the evidence that we will see in this trial. But yes, I'm like you, Betty. I wish we had all the evidence right now. I'm wondering, my community is probably pretty well biased. Um, and there are probably a lot of y'all are going with guilty. I'm going pretty much that there's going to be some type of procedural mistrial. And my secondary is the mistrial hung jury. I really am. I'm stuck between those two right now. And neither one of them means that Richard Allen is innocent or guilty. And will it proceed to further and a new trial? I believe so. But I would imagine that as we go through chat here, there's going to be quite the few that go into, yes, he's guilty, as we saw earlier. Oh, that was funny. Oh, man. Let's see here. Simon says, I have a question for Steve. Have you ever seen a case where Ellie has said the suspect's eyes were not a certain color? Example, BG does not have blue eyes. I would, not that I can recall, but I have seen certain characteristics and tattoos and things that stood out on numerous or would about the individual that would lead you to instantly identify the individual. We even saw that law enforcement said, don't pay attention to the BG's face or look at his clothing, look at his walk, which that little old loop didn't do justice to what any type of walk would be, because you're walking, I don't know, 60 feet, elevated span of a old creaky bridge, and it's uneven. Some of those cross ties were rotting, uneven surface, so it's really not a good way that you could establish how he truly walked. But as far as characteristics, yeah, I've seen some lookouts where they gave certain, missing fingers, scars, glasses, things of that nature. But as far as ever seeing one just for the color of their eyes, yeah, I think I've seen them where they did include eye color, but not a negative approach to it. That no, they have any color but blue. That was odd. Maureen says, I'm getting nervous about the verdict now that we're getting closer to the trial. I'm getting nervous just about the trial, but I'm anxious to make sure that while I do believe that he is involved in it, I just want to make sure that justice is, and that there's not others involved in it, because there's always that possibility. And we just have to find out in the evidence. The CSI guys and the people that work the crime scene, they have a pretty good understanding of how many people are involved in this, because they would have seen how many people crossed that creek. They'd have the evidence of what went on at the crime scene. Were there restraints? How were the victims controlled from the point of first contact on the bridge? And as they was there a flight? Was there a struggle between the first contact and the where they were found? There's so much stuff out there we just don't know. Olivia too. Good to see you. Leanne says, I have a theory. Throw it in there. I'm glad that you're here. In 5 words or 5 words or less, what's your theory there, Scott and Leanne? Lee and Susan Trainer, good to see you. Oh, me. Southern Gal, True Crime member for 14 months. Hey, Mr. Steve, thank you for all your hard work. thank you for your support, and look forward to your next show. And if you don't know who Southern Gal is, she is another creator out there that does some great work. There's Blackwater. Thank you for your support. Member for 7 months. Oh, don't need to get a cigarette. No, we don't need to get a cigarette. Hello, Sparky. Oh, Mrs. Steve isn't here. She's in Florida taking care of the grandkids and also her parents. So, hello, Jill. Good to see you. But thank you for asking about Mrs. Steve, Sparky. Appreciate that. Truffles. RA is acting mental for a reason. He has not said that he did not do it. Yeah, he said right the opposite of that. If we take it for what it's worth, even if he brought factors or facts or said something of about the crime scene and that certain acts were committed that weren't part of the crime scene, and for whatever reason, is that to cloud the issue? Was that a strategy on his part? For the fact, I wouldn't believe that the attorneys would lead him down that path to do such a thing. I don't think it's ethically part of what they would do, and which I'm sure I'll get some heat over what attorneys' ethics are. Oh, me. True Crime Web, I sent you a detailed email about my observation. Did I send it to the wrong address? It may have went into a different file. It could, sometimes my emails, they'll get sorted and it would go into the wrong thing. I'll just have to check, Don, but I don't recall seeing it. Nightbot is awake. Oh, good old Nightbot. Like I said, guys, as you come into this channel, if you've got a feeling of that he's going to be acquittal, just put that there and a few words of why. Or if you think there's going to be a procedural mistrial, you think it's going to be a hung jury, that the judge may dismiss it, or the prosecutor finds new evidence and they dismiss it, or would they be a guilty verdict on this? Just whatever you think. And guilty. And now this is just the looking at the probable cause. The biggest thing and the biggest reasons that I like DP, and I don't know the full reasons of what DP believes that he's guilty for, but I think the strongest indicators are, of course, is the timeline. Law enforcement looks at those timelines and they put a lot of weight into that timeline. Who was at the scene? Because you have to be there to be the responsible party. You can't be somewhere else across the country or anywhere else and be at the crime scene at the same time. So we have an individual that put himself there, and that's Richard Allen. And he put himself there at a critical time. We have witnesses that also put him within the a safe or the ground zero access to the crime scene within a critical timeline. And we have vehicles that are seen, we have cameras, and we have witnesses that says that he was on the bridge. And which, as far as the timeline and the events that could have happened, if that's Richard Allen on that first standing on the bridge, and when the witness sees him standing there and she turns around and walks back halfway to her vehicle and meets the two victims, I mean, we're only talking about seconds. We're not even talking about where you could say it's 2, 3, 5 minutes. We're talking probably a minute or less, for the fact that from the midway point, when you walk that trail and you come around that last curve and you look down that straightaway, you can see quite a bit of area. And I know the trail has changed some. They've moved and cleaned, and there was an obstruction or two, but that's still, that small obstruction is not going to wipe out the total vision of being able to see onto the first platform on the bridge or on that access to the bridge there at that critical point. And so, um, if that's Richard Allen on that first platform and he's starting to follow the witness that saw him on the bridge, he would have seen Libby and Abby, and they would have seen him. And so we just, that's why I think it's so critical. And then we have that he has admitted to law enforcement that he was wearing the same type of clothing as what was in the image. And then we have a bullet that has gone through that there's at least an expert filed a report. Of course, it hasn't been confirmed in court yet, but that expert says that in his report that there's characteristics saying that Richard Allen's gun was at the crime scene. Richard Allen didn't loan his gun out to anybody. And so if a bullet that was cycled through his gun is at the crime scene, you would assume that his gun was at the crime scene. And if he didn't lend it to anybody, it's only him that could be at the crime scene. Yes, Casey Anthony, jury. Yes, I don't think so. I think that this is going to be a little bit different. I'm hoping so anyway. And as always, you knocked it out of the park, Mustang. It is justice for Abby and Libby, without a doubt. And Don, you have a good point here. Hung if the previous investigators testified to other suspects and the Odinism theory. And I did a show on that. And I do believe that could, because all we got to do is, all they've got to do, the defense, is convince one of them, one jury to say, you don't have enough here, guys. Before we take this man or put him potentially that he may lose and have faced the ultimate penalty or spend the rest of his life, that no, we're not going to go that route because you haven't proved it to that to the level that I will sentence an individual to that to spend the rest of his life at a minimum in jail. So I'm with you, Don. I understand that too. I think he's guilty, but thinking he's guilty and proving he's guilty is two totally different things. With 12 people, think about your own family. Think about sitting around on Thanksgiving, and I don't care what you do on Thanksgiving, sitting there. I don't care if you're talking about politics. Don't care if you're talking about sports. All 12, if there's 12 of you at that table or in that house, you're not all going to agree. And that's your blood. That's your family. That's your friends. And you're not going to agree. And it's going to be very similar when you get into to that jury. They're going to spend a lot of time together and they're going to watch all the same evidence. But just because you see the same evidence, some people reflect and analyze and things stand out to certain people versus, key points. And all those key points, they have to click for everybody for them to move forward with whatever type of a verdict that they're going to give him, acquitting or guilty, either one. All right. And that's a very interesting, Don. I think Richard Allen is guilty, but I can be swayed with solid evidence of his innocence. Would that be DNA? It would be more, or would it just be that Richard Allen's gun is taken from the scene, that they can't connect, that the bullet is thrown out and they said, no, it's not a match, or they don't allow it? What type of solid evidence would it take? Is it just DNA only? What does? Oh, me, Junior. Bama Sin. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Awesome mods and wonderful chat, friends. Glad to see you. Appreciate you being here. Roxy says guilty. Yep. Oh, I didn't put that, but I think I didn't put insanity there. And dang it, good point, Truffles. I didn't put insanity there. But I don't know, will they, is that even on the table anymore? Or does Indiana even recognize it? Because some states do not recognize insanity as part of it. And I don't know if Indiana does or not. But that's a good catch there, Truffles. NH Mountains, good to see you. Thank you for the telling everybody to hit the like button. Anna says, mistrial or hung jury if, as Ruckus insists, there is unknown male DNA mixed with blood of both victims, balanced against Richard Allen's admissions and the unspent bullet. Okay, fair enough. And hope, I know that they said they had a partial profile. I'm hoping that at some point the sciences of the DNA world gets to the point that they're able, because there's a lot of changes that have occurred from the early years of DNA to now, of what they can do with that and where it's going. But thank you, Anna. Hello, Kamala. Good to see you. Oh, man. CJK, good to see you. Guilty because of case we don't know yet, and because Ruckus says he'll change his plea. Oh, man. Putting it on Ruckus there. Hello, Daisy. And Anna also, that if it is acquitted, of course, it would be a done deal. But if he's found guilty, I do absolutely believe that on a guilty verdict, there will be an appeal. Absolutely. Speaking of the protector, the one person in the world I get to carry with me as we were doing some work on one of our code cases, I took Ruckus with me. And from that moment on, as he introduced me, or as I introduced him to one of the code case families, Ruckus just looked at him and says, well, I'm here with the National Treasure, and it's stuck ever since. And the National Treasure is a glorified name for someone that carries Ruckus's suitcases and his man purse. Hello, Gail Hurd. Say what says it's going to be a mistrial. Is it going to be something that you think mistrial as far as through what will happen with the presentation, either by the defense or by the prosecution or some other, or will it be a mistrial due to a hung jury? And this is Junior's correct on this. I think the bullet evidence will be moot. They will have experts on both sides, and that happens quite a bit. That juries they accept that there's two possibilities of any type of evidence that an expert offers their opinion on, and they are opinions, And we see it time in and time out that we have people giving their opinions, and whichever way you were leaning in the first place, you don't even consider there. So, I think loss of exculpatory evidence is not good for the prosecution. Well, of course, the prosecution says there was no exculpatory evidence. The defense says that those interviews were, or that there's information within that. And while it is a black eye for law enforcement and for the prosecution, that there was all these recordings and interviews lost. It's not the worst thing that could have happened, but it's pretty bad. And it does give them a black eye, and it depends on how the court addresses it and what will be allowed in. Now, will they be able to get that door open of bringing that information in? And if they do, I think the jury will not like that one bit. That if the jury is made aware that recordings and law enforcement's lost parts of this, that they are not going to be able to be presented, even if it was going to be part of discovery and was going to be used in the case. Who knows? Brandon, good to see you. Say what? Ruckus is National Treasure stunt double. Oh, man. This guy makes me feel safe. Thank you. If you're talking about me. If you're talking about Ruckus, no. Okay. And I didn't put plea in here either. I didn't. Ruckus and I were on two different pages. Last I heard, he was still going with plea, and I wish I had. I think he would plead because he is a coward and doesn't want to face all the facts being publicly released. Supposedly, this was the sticking point. Sparky, I love your brutal honesty. Hey, Joan. Joan is in here. Yeah, if there's if we're left standing with no one being convicted, but we have to be very, very careful that we just don't convict without the jury being absolutely convinced. And of course, I don't think there's any jury that knowingly goes in there with the intent that, well, we're going to make sure someone serves time, regardless if they're the ones responsible or not. I think we've way past that point in history, whereas there was a time in this country of when people took law enforcement's word that you wouldn't be on trial if you weren't guilty. I think we're way past that now, especially with what the internet has brought to it, what we see with these juries, and the way that our society is going. That when we watch so many CSI shows, and we have that a lot of these people have been rightly or wrongly exposed to how the law enforcement and CSI works and how everything is in stone and quick to solve, that that we don't jump and just take the word of law enforcement anymore. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay. You ain't got to take my word for it. Hannah said, oh, that oldness would insult their intelligence. Hello, Daisy. Yes, I have a great chat. They are very, very kind. I have a great community. Very proud of them. And Black Widow, I just want justice for the girls. Absolutely. My vote is mistrial because of all the shenanigans and dumpster fires going on. And if you ever watch Southern Gal's true crime show, you'll see she makes references to dumpster fires quite often. That's due to, like myself, the Google machine sometimes backs up on us and causes dumpster fires. And Ruckus, he has if you ever watch, if you ever get a chance to watch Ruckus, you're going to see his opinion, and he does not back away from whatever his impulse is to say. He says it, and so you have to admire that for him. And he does the same thing in the car. I spent many hours and probably a couple thousand miles in a vehicle with him. And we discussed a lot of things, and from the law enforcement perspective on of and behaviors of individuals, offenders, people serve time for some of the most horrible crimes, things that we've seen as far as our careers. And he is brutally honest, and I admire him for that. This will do nicely. Has been a member for 19 months. Thank you. There's your blue light. Appreciate your support. Gil heard somebody tried to give her a wooden nickel yesterday. I ran like the defense hands seem to be tied. I saw who was it was on I think Deb's channel of where the state had filed the sanctions, and it was very revealing in the state's declaration of that they've given discovery, or they've given I think it was like 24 or 26 terabytes of information to the defense. Now, am I happy that they did that to defense? Not really. You know, is it really fair to say that yes, here's and terabytes is huge, guys. But let's say that you give somebody a million pages of paperwork, and you say, well, there's 1,000 pages in that million pages that is regarding what you want, and they're in there somewhere. So you can have where you have these data dumps, and it's not really fair. Now, I think they corrected it, and they have put an index in there to allow the defense to simply be able to be more effective and everything. But saying that you provided all the evidence, and you did. If you gave them 24, 26 terabytes of data and pictures and everything that, and videos, 3D imaging, crime scene photos, and you've given them that much data, yeah, it's there. Absolutely, the majority is there. But you've also given it to them that inside that trash truck of data, you have a needle in the haystack. And so I can see your point. I'm not really happy with it, but it is what it is. Yes, that's right. That witness said that they were whatever color it wasn't blue. All right. Never Silent says, howdy, all. Finally getting here alive, even though I'm stuck at work. Sorry about that. I think it would be a mistrial or hung jury first round. I just sincerely hope the girls get justice. Absolutely. All right. Thank you. That's fair enough. Olivia, too, says, this will do nicely. Hi and happy Webiversary. I love that term, Webiversary. Oh, yes. Don't forget about indicting a ham sandwich. How we love a grand jury. And I've seen right the opposite of it also, of whereas you have a huge, great case against someone, and for whatever reason, you will have a prosecutor, they don't want that, and you think, what's going on here? Why is this? And seen it. It's very strange sometimes that certain people don't like what evidence and the way it's presented. Anna says, I bet prosecution has a lot more evidence. Absolutely. Law enforcement has if we have 26 terabytes of information, and I'm sure that you can go out there and figure out what 26 terabytes is of data, but all of that information is more than what any one individual probably could read through in a lifetime. And it would take a team to figure that out. SB 74, I'm betting a witness we don't know about due to that code on his charging docks, the other actor. And that was a strange statement. Other actor. Yeah, for it to be a terabyte, the video has to be very long. Yes, and in high in high depth too. Boston Christian, good to see you. I think if the defense thinks they are losing, they will purposefully cause a mistrial. They have shown ethics is not a barricade to them. And I think there's probably some rules against that, but who knows? Wonder did they match eyes with Richard Allen from Bridge Plus? Could the photo on Bridge be Photoshopped? Anything in the digital age can be Photoshopped. And I think there was some editing occurred. Do I think, and it depends on which image. There's people out there that talk about that everything from Abby Photoshop and to BG being Photoshop. And I'm there as far as the gun presentation. I think there's some editing there. There were certain things that I created content on and looked at that looks like evidence to me that there was some editing that occurred as far as the presentation of the gun. And but we'll see whenever the trial here if there is any editing. Gail says that there's a Amber Alert for a 2-year-old Hispanic male in San Marcos. Okie doke, guys. If you're in San Marcos, check it out. Junior says, I'm wondering what Keegan Klein is going to have to say for the prosecutor. Who knows? Who knows? And would they use him as an alternate suspect also? Right now, it looks like the prosecution is focusing totally on the Odinist because we have a law enforcement officer that if he gets up there, and that's why they're going with it, you work with what you got, guys. Regardless of how crazy you think the Odinist theory is. So either you go with that Keegan Klein, Ron Logan, but we don't have a law enforcement officer that's saying that we think Keegan Klein is the one involved. And we think that we have supporting evidence of he being involved, or my investigation never, I still think there's more to it with his involvement. We don't have that with Keegan. We don't have that with Logan. But there is a possibility we have that with the Odinist theory of the law enforcement perspective supporting evidence of testimony. Don't know if he will carry it that far, but there's certain indicators from people that attended one of the hearings recently that Click may go up there and give supporting evidence to the defense's theory. And that's how come that if I had to pick any of them, the reason I would go with the Odinist theory and never back down is because there's a law enforcement officer that possibly can get up there on the stand and you can lead him down that path that, yes, they were involved. Doesn't mean that Richard Allen is an Odinist. Don't know, but it most certainly is what I would do. Ruckus says, I still believe he'll plead out and change plea. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if the hand's in his pocket or he's pulling the firearm. I think he's pulling the firearm personally, or he's holding it. And I think that we just can't see those hands really well. Daisy, $2.99 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support. If Richard Allen pled out, would it mean it's because he's going to give up someone else? They could be that, There could be that protecting someone else. There could be to take the DP off the table. There's a lot of different reasons that he may plead out. I tend to agree with you, DP, that common sense wise, timeline wise, that yes, BG and Richard Allen is the same. Betty, good point. You know, there's a lot of things I've, I'm trying to think when I was young and just a child, I might misled mama of where I was at or where I was going. But as an adult, and once I've experienced life, no, we don't tend to lie to mama. And Truffle's got, that's a good point, that he may want to be declared unfit and may act up in court. Good point. Does Steve see any sign Ellie had Richard Allen as a, don't know what the P is for. Extend that out and I'll tell you. But I don't think, if you're saying that they had Richard Allen as a person of interest prior to whatever occurred after that, the 5-year mark, and what brought their attention to him previously, because when Richard Allen was arrested, I don't think you could have knocked over everybody, because we had someone that had never been heard of before suddenly thrown into the limelight. Say what? Says mistrial. And this will do nice. A gifted one true Crime Web membership. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm a lot further than that. No, I don't think they had him. They should have had him if they hadn't thrown away or they hadn't misfiled that piece of paper. Yes, I don't. They should have had him as a person of interest somewhere in March of 2017. If they hadn't whatever misfiling or whoever's going to point the finger, Farmer, $5 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate it. Scott says, I think Richard Allen found out about the communications with Klein. Roxy said, I just love Mrs. Steve. Don't we all? Does anyone remember Doug Carter going over to speak with someone related to the crime? What was that about? I can't remember. Hello, Peggy. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Appreciate it. Brandon says, RA is smarter than I thought, which changed my opinion of him in this case. Absolutely. If he is the one that is responsible for this and hid in plain sight, and that part of living this, Curtis West says guilty. They're going to do some surveys, and it's just going to be someone that doesn't have an opinion about the case, that they may have knowledge of the case, but that they don't have a feeling of innocent or guilt. And what information they have, they can be able to totally disregard any concepts that they have and they'll proceed forward. Brandon says, plea deal. So you're with Ruckus. Yes. He admitted being there. He admitted only he used the gun. Yeah, there is that little discrepancy. We'll have to see where it goes. And Al's on the prowl. Timestamps and timeline is important. Absolutely. Yeah, that yellow thing of when they first was talking about Keegan Klein and going overseas. Yes, there was that's another platform. I'm with you, Farmer. I don't know how you can ever get past that. I'm on the bridge wearing those clothes. CJK, he confessed, and you don't think it's just because he's behind the bar. SP74 says timeline, gun, ammo. Excellent. Guilty. Ari has said just about everything to law enforcement you shouldn't. That's why defense. Yes, he's done everything he can to get convicted. There's nothing else I think Richard Allen could do other than stand up in front of the jury and say, regardless of what they prove I didn't do, I did it. That's that's the only thing. And will he do that? I need that on a bingo card. That at a key point in the trial, he'll stand up and say, regardless of what they're trying to prove, that I did or didn't do it, but I did it. That's will we see any of that? Let's see here. Sunday soapbox. Mr. Steve can see all the work concern on your favorite as court draws near. You can tell what a devoted law enforcement you've been. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Yep. The unspent round at the scene and the gun at the house. Cynthia Gaines, good to see you. Farmer says he feels like he was tracking them in real time. That's a possibility. Yes, Ruckus and I are on the same page with this. He's done everything possible to make himself feel pure guilty. Now, if he shows up in court wearing a blue jacket, blue jeans, a hoodie, then we know that. I mean, there's so many things that you could look at of how he could flaunt this, and that, of course, his jury, the attorneys would never allow him to implicate himself in such a manner. Kamala, $20. There would be a mistrial because of the jury, then a retrial found guilty. Oh yes, mistrial. I didn't do that. As far as yes, the juries can have can cause mistrials too. Good point, Kamala. Y'all are so bright. I wish y'all were. I wish I had all y'all helping me create these slides. Yes, Richard Allen has the right to remain silent, doesn't have the ability. Seen a lot of those. The sticks on the bodies always make me wonder if Allen was off the rails. I would have guessed dismemberment. The sticks are strange. Al says he always felt it was a lone wolf. Odinism is a new satanic panic. And guys, I worked during the satanic panic. It was unreal. They absolutely unreal. Abby had horns over her head. From what images I had, I didn't see that, but like I said, I don't know if the images I had have been Photoshopped or what part during the process those images and how real they were or anything. I really don't know what generation we had. Yeah. Richard Allen didn't continue to step forward from Scott. Daisy, going to talk about it after the closing arguments. That's fair enough. John Doe said, I saw no horns. Mustang says, I think he's a lone wolf. Lone wolf from John Doe. I think he's guilty. Will delay trial again and offer a plea. I predict that once he sees KK and hears his testimony, he's going to have a heart attack. That's interesting. So you think KK is going to be a key witness? Alan Hinkle will not be allowed. Olivia, lone wolf. Junior says, I think there's a video out there. Jonathan Clark says, seems to be guilty, but definitely not getting treated like Idaho suspect or list suspect, it appears. Hello, Peggy Day. Good to see you. John Doe says, I think there's a video also. On the prowl. His alibi is he admitted to being there. Oh, man. There may be something in the proper defense work that if another party is accused and not named, it works against the client. There could be a relationship that would be in there, but you would think that is that the other actor? That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he can claim he's not fit for trial now. Yeah. Yeah, anybody that does some of the things that he's done. Barbara Hall, good to see you. Hello, Mr. Steve and everyone. If y'all don't know Barbara Hall, look up Timmy D's case. Barbara is Timmy D's mother, who has been fighting for justice for a long, long time. And once you familiarize yourself with Barbara Hall, you will have the utmost respect for everything that she has faced over the years. She has absolutely fought a long, hard uphill battle. Beach Girl says you can use an insanity plea, but it's difficult to prove and generally doesn't work. Peggy, oh, I have a hard time with Odinus, but you go for the lone wolf. Hello, Kelt. Good to see you. And that's my biggest fear here is that 12 jurors agreeing. What do you think of his multiple confessions? I think they're going to absolutely come back to haunt him and have a huge impact on the trial. Jill Moser. Appeals seldom work. That's a good point. It's extremely hard to get things appealed. It's not easy. Appeals, agree with by on appeal. What if the case is a mistrial? Then they would have to look at what type of mistrial and all that and see if they're going. Mistrials, if it's a hung jury, then the prosecutor has to make a decision. If it's some of the other types of mistrials, they just have to address those issues. I saw on YouTube the photo we weren't to see with Odin pictures with branches placed. I've never seen it. That oh man, national treasure is Ruckanese for sure. That's the truth. Ruckus has finally spoken truth. Ruckanese. And I agree with Yana that human sacrifice is ridiculous. I don't know if a nut in a gallery would do it because the judge could. It depends on what would happen if someone did certain things, but generally, the people that are not part of the active trial that in a jury uh, that they could probably disassociate and get them put in jail for a while, and the jury would say, "There's a nut." There's a difference between insane and crazy legally. I think it's a shirt, hoodie, sweater, tail, not a man purse. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about that. I just think it's photo editing or editing. Uh, True Crime Time, good to see you. And SB said maybe all those lost recordings declare it wasn't Richter Allen. Possible. Um, if he is found guilty, it says the only evidence I needed to hear was when Kelsey said today is the day. Doug Carter said it was him and was 100 on it. After RA gets his guilty verdict, then what, Steve? He will get life or the DP. He deserves DP. No ifs, ands about it. You don't go killing children. There's nothing you can ever do to repay society for taking the lives of two kids. If that's the best that you can bring in your lifespan is that you have to go out and take the lives of two innocent children, yeah, I know what needs to happen to you. True Crime Time says I followed since the girls went missing. It was a head scratcher when the arrest was made. Yeah, it knocked the socks off a lot of people. Alan Hinkle, the voice expert. I'm sure that technologies and that expert may be there. True. Don Spain says that we need a solid alibi at time of homicides. That makes sense. And a DNA of another male on the bodies or a confession of one of the defense suspects, etc. Fair enough. Tao says, makes me uncomfortable. Something's really off. These poor girls deserve better than this. Absolutely. Just jumping through here, guys. I hope I don't miss too much. I'm just so far behind. Cynthia, could a computer program calculate the height of a bridge guy? I would imagine that whatever the sciences were to bring this in, and the whatever universities experts went in there and got the height wrong. Um, I I believe that some of the AI technologies would probably they wouldn't be any worse. I think yes that you're probably closer to the truth than anything that's worked so far. Sammy says that despite the drama, theories involved, I think prosecution clearly showed the case is straightforward and RA was the sole perpetrator. Hello, Hugh. Good to see you. Uh, Ruckus has the defense as being brilliant. Well, the police department need more experience, in my opinion. They had resources that, from one of the, if not the greatest crime lab in the world, and you had experts, and you had, I mean, when you looked at that stage and they was doing those news briefings, and you had everything, which us in law enforcement realizes that you always have, just because they're standing up there doesn't mean that they're all a solid team. There's always issues. And I hope that's not the case. That the easiest path is one to satisfy people. Barbara says, I like to be a fly on the wall on that card when you guys are talking. You talking about when Ruckus and I are talking, riding? Oh, yeah. There would have to be be a lot of beeps. You could never play it. Because we don't always play nice when we're talking about stuff. Yes, and when we're talking about a crime like this, and when persons are arrested for such a horrible crime, and what we see this with BTK, we saw it with Ted Bundy, we saw it with the Golden State, and we saw it even with Long Island. All those persons were in plain sight for a long time. Aspen, good to see you. So you actually had a dumpster fire? Let's see here. This thing jumped, so I may have missed some people. Hope not, but it's possible. I think he'd be found guilty. He was there. His bullet was there. It should be interesting, though. Absolutely. He was the only man there. Good point. But now, there was where we had we had some other men that were, so not really the only man, but probably the only man at a critical time. This thing jumped again. But yeah, because we had the older brothers that were from the community. We had the man with his girlfriend there. So there were some other men there within a certain time period. Plus, we had the father. But at a very key point on the platform, he was the only man seen at that time. Robin B., good to see you. Tom Webster says, hi, Mr. Steve. Did crime scene investigators bring a camera and video camera to process scenes or just use cell phones as they become more sophisticated? About unspent rounds in the ground. Thanks. No, I can't say what they do now. And of course, when I was working it, but no, the capabilities, and while there are some cell phones out there that have absolutely, that have higher and better quality cameras than what I originally started my crime scene processing with, because the first early generation of digital cameras were far inferior to what is typically in most of your basic cell phones now. But the abilities of uh, of what, as far as focusing and some of these overall, because there's a lot of photography done, and as far as you have your overall pictures, your medium range pictures, your close ups, and there's a huge process. Is there technologies out there where they may be using the cell phones more than they did back then? It's possibly, but I wouldn't. I just can't see that process occurring, because there's going to be times that you will need that a flash, and of course, cell phones have that too. But it would it work in the same manner? And so I don't think so. I think that they will still, to get those micro images of being able to focus, because there's certain details of when you're processing a crime scene, that those really up close detailed images, such as a bullet in the ground, um, um, and to see how far into the earth is it in the leaves, is that bullet, if it was on the leaf debris, was it stepped on, did it penetrate um, uh, and break uh, the integrity of a leaf, and was impacted into the ground. All those details, I don't think you could probably do with a cell phone. I'll try to do that and see the comparison, but yeah, I think they will still went with a digital camera with all the bells and whistles versus a cell phone. All regardless of how good cell phones are now. I agree with you. I think LE was clueless all the way up until just prior to within a month or two of his arrest. Oh God, Ruckus doesn't like my clothing. Uh, uh, Stay pressed. $4.99 super sticker. Thank you for your support. There was a pause in the Wabash River search halfway through. I think that's when they found the tip. Possible. Appreciate your support there. Stay pressed. Sensei, 5 pounds. Coffee for the long driving missions. Don't forget to hit the like button. We love you, and Mrs. Steve, thank you. Appreciate that. Melissa, hey, Mr. Steve, hello. Alan Prowl, in my opinion, Richard Allen has tried to do this before numerous times. There's that possibility, absolutely, because you just don't start at that age out of nowhere. Emerald City, good to see you. Don Spain, if the mistrial occurs, will RA remain in custody and still new trial? I would imagine so. If, but he would be going. There would be a process for that, I would imagine. Emerald City has a crush on Tom Webster. Oh me, oh me. Peggy says that the horns were a rumor. I didn't see any. I saw a stick. I mean, I saw a twig. I didn't even see. I saw the sticks on them, but and I saw twigs, but I didn't see any horns. But like I said, don't know how accurate they were. Don't know if there's photoshopping. Don't know what part of the process of evidence collection it was been. There's so many variables because you're only looking at the shutter speed of the camera, and you're, 1/200th of a second to 1/1000th of a second. It can be whatever that shutter speed is. Robin B says, Mr. Steve, I was wondering what is the purpose of RA having a jury trial since he confessed? Well, we know that they're not going to be able to pick and choose certain parts of the confession, although the prosecution is going to highlight key things that benefit them. The defense is going to highlight, if those confessions are allowed, we're going to highlight key things that benefit them. And so even with the confessions, I don't give them a huge value. I think they will be something that the jury will look at, but we're also talking about an individual who has some strange habits. So I don't really know about how much those confessions will go because we don't know the context. Now, those confessions may be dead on, but I don't have the full context of what words were used, when, how, and why. So we will have to look at that and have a little bit better understanding the context and how he confessed to his mother and his wife, because it's all about the timing. Thank you, Mustang. I think that there was some digital altering to hide the firearm from the public at that time. Cindy says they did use some type of program. Yeah. I know they took off the height and things as far Bud Bundy guilty. Let me change that to another one also. Trying to get caught up, guys. Making some progress here. Appreciate everybody being here as always. Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate y'all's support. It means a lot to us and the channel and our code cases because we got a lot of stuff to do. And as always, like I said, without y'all support, our foundation working with these families, we couldn't travel these miles. It's a lot of work involved in that. In Indiana, I don't know when they introduced that. I don't know if that will only be brought in after the verdict of guilty and the options are then there or put there. I just don't know. I don't know what the process in Indiana is. Hi, Steve. Good to see you, Cecil. Hotel. Hello, Betsy. Betsy has a new puppy. I'm sorry about your other dog had passed. You got a new puppy named Molly. And this will come out, Cunningham says, instead of throwing so many theories around the defense, should tell us about his day. And that will, there'll be a time and place for that. Absolutely. And that's a good point. They'll have to explain that. The defense will have to put Richard Allen in a normal light, that this is what Richard Allen was doing. He went to the trail. He walked the trail. He enjoyed the sunshine, the warmth. He spoke to, he was looking for fish. It's one of his hobbies. He's a normal guy. Walked back to his car, went home, and had a nice cigar or whatever his vices are. I have no idea. But that's what the defense will have to do, is portray him in a normal light, that this individual who worked daily at his pharmacy and was a good employee, he's a normal guy. He is not a monster. He's incapable of committing these crimes. That's what the defense is going to have to do. They can't sit there and let him be a monster if they approach it from that standpoint. And this happens quite a lot, that they do put the DP on the table so that people will plea out. Hello, Bonnie. Good to see you. K Music, good to see you. The defense hasn't read all of it. And I've said you can't read, it's impossible to read 26 terabytes. Mamison, have you checked your buried books? Yeah, I've got them all collected. I need to process them for fingerprints and stuff. Why would the defense file for a speedy trial? It's all strategies, even without reading. It's all a strategy. I don't know if Criminality Channel is pro RA. I'm sure in her chat they have a little bit about all of them across the board, I would imagine. She has a good channel, has a good community. I'm sure that they're, it's like in all chats, you open to everybody. Generally, you'll have a larger group of individuals going a certain way of whatever the main creator of the channel is. They go that direction. But as far as her, I think she's more that he's not guilty currently. Steve, you mentioned RA likely tried this before. Is there a chance this was his first violent crime, that he went berserk while arguing with the girls during a chance encounter? I believe that he has some type of other criminal issues and behaviors. That could this be his first homicide? Yes. Do I think this is his first criminal behavior? If he's the one responsible for this, no. I think he has some a dark part of his life that we are unfamiliar with. I have a crush on Mr. Steve. Don't tell Mrs. Steve. I won't. Here, let's see. Mrs. Steve, I can tell you, Mrs. Steve will probably tell you good luck. Keep him away from the stove and the groceries. And it's a good point that if Richard Allen is the one responsible for this, he's been hiding in plain sight for most of his life, and that is that's really well stated. We still don't know all that much about Richard Allen. I think he has been hiding in plain sight for most of his life. Wonder what else he is hiding from, and if he is the one responsible, that's well stated. And I agree, Saint, that if Richard Allen is a budding serial offender or had committed other crimes, that image that Libby got of him and all the YouTube channels went out there and created all this content would absolutely put a halt on future exploits. You really need to know how high the camera was held and the angle of it to figure height. Was you standing on the tracks or not? People have tried. Nobody has done it. I would imagine that you could probably do brackets go out there with known bracketing of images from a high, mid, and low, and see what the percentages are and see if her camera could have been held within a certain angle or certain degrees, and it would give you a range of height. But there should be a way of recreating that through the full range of different angles, because you're right, where the camera is and what angle it's done. But even with that, there are certain mathematical formulas that should work, or maybe not. I could be absolutely dead wrong, but that's what I would do if I was doing it. I would go to the tracks, or I would go, and I may do that. That's probably a pretty good test, and let me try that. Let's see that. Thank you. We'll see that. See if that works. And then we could tell the percentages. So that may be a future test, or someone else out there that has the time and the skill sets. I think that would be a very interesting formula to try to figure out that if the camera is 5 feet off the ground, 3 feet off the ground, all the way through that range, what are the different angles? How does that affect the height? Trying to get caught up, guys. I'm just a few minutes down. I've run a little bit long tonight, but I appreciate everybody that's been in chat. Alan Hinkle is, how high is that bridge? I know it's an extremely high bridge for Indiana. I think it's like 60 something feet, maybe 90. Yeah. Alan says approximately 60 feet. Yeah, it's 60. I've jumped out of buildings when I was rappelling. Now that was higher. That if my rappel line had broke, I would have fallen a lot further than 60 feet. And I've rappelled off of sides of mountains, and that if the rappel line had broke at, I would have fell several hundred feet. But you would survive it, I think, if you fell from that bridge. State Press says that she's totally pro RA, afraid not to be. Okay. Yeah, it's 26 terabytes. I knew it was 22, 24, 26, somewhere like that. I knew. Oh, me. At least you don't get kicked out of Criminality Channel. That was drunk turkey. We laughed about that. I got kicked out of this channel by accident. I would listen to this man read the phone book. Oh, my goodness. Olivia, about, yes, if he's part of the triangle. That's very kind of you, Midnight Rider. Yes, we try to do the best that we can. We try to go out and help our cold case families. And, like I said, it's through our views, our donations, the foundation. We couldn't do it without you guys. Appreciate that. Oh, yes. You're going to see Richard Allen cleaned up, dressed up, and being a responsible citizen if they go that route. so much BS by the prosecutors, though. It's just crazy, Steve. I wish they hadn't have given a data dump. I wish they just, whatever the discovery was, and I think it would have been a better appearance. That's just my 2 cents. I could be wrong. I'm wrong quite a bit. Steve, Team 6. That's y'all. Oh man, that's funny. Oh yeah. The floor will apologize to Steve for breaking his fall. Y'all are wild. Absolutely wild, guys. All right. Looks like I'm got called all the way up, guys. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And like I said, through y'all's support and everything, it allowed us to go 19,000 miles last year. We went 6,300 this year, and we've got a lot to do. And before I get out of here, I want to thank Josh the Posh, Mustang 5, Southern Gal, Black Widow. This will do nicely. Daisy. This will do nicely again. Farmer. Kamala, thank you for your support. Stay Press, good to see you. Thank you for that. Sensei. Don Spain, thank you. We appreciate all of y'all's support for the fact that without y'all, we couldn't do what we do for these families. It means a lot to us, and we appreciate it. And if you, as always, if you have any information, make sure law enforcement has it. Y'all guys stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all soon. And I appreciate y'all for everything you've done tonight for us. And I'll see our members tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, guys. See you then. Bye-bye.